I thought of this idea a number of years ago. I was like, a double book destination wedding would be a really funny concept. And then it took me a while to figure out the characters just because that concept didn't bring the characters. And then I was like, I'd always wanted to work with Reese. I'd always wanted to work with Reese.
Not so much me.
No.
Yeah.
I was like desperate
Yes.
to work with,
Yes.
And so she
It's
was
okay.
my first call.
We've talked about it.
And only call. But then there was a lot of, I don't want to get into how the sausage is made, but in Hollywood, there was a lot of pressure for me to talk to Will about this film. And so, I've been dying to work with both Will and Reese for years. And so when I started thinking about this movie and the concept, I just started to build the characters around them and pitched the movie to both of them. And I was very lucky. They both said yes, and we were off to the races.
Even from the very first day we were on film, we just did a camera test. I literally looked over and I thought in my mind, this is like bucket list. I get to work with Will Ferrell in my life. I am so lucky.
And I was getting to work with Tracy Flick, one of the greatest characters of all time. It just, we just kind of, there wasn't anything to kind of get over. We just clicked right away. And I think a lot of that is in the writing that Nick had with the characters and the dynamic. I think it's hard to build to the level of chaos that this film gets to in a way that just is so funny and so organic. And Nick did such a great job with that. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of heart in the movie. I think Nick did a great job of making sure the characters feel grounded in their family dynamics as well. So I think you can kind of recognize people who are the black sheep of their family, which is my character, and just feel like they're the sibling that's never doing right and just don't fit in. I think all of that really helps make the movie more resonant and really meaningful for people watching it with their families. I think this character is very regimented and very rooted in her, belief system. And I think everything that happens and transpires during it, it's kind of that delicious thing of watching somebody who's super type A and overplanned just completely disintegrate into the chaos and learn to lean into the idea that life isn't perfect and doesn't always work out exactly how you want it to. There's something so nice about watching that unravel, in a comedic way.
I mean, from the beginning, I was like, the two weddings need to be really different for it to be, for them to contrast. And so I was like, it's funny to me if Will's daughter is just too young to be getting married. That's like a funny kind of wedding. I always remember the first wedding I went to when I was like 22. Like, it was a friend of mine, and they had like 20 bridesmaids. Like, there were so many bridesmaids and so many groomsmen. And I was like, this was my first wedding, and I was like, I guess they're not married anymore. But yes, yeah. I know, yeah, exactly. But it was, so I thought that should be like a too young wedding and like kind of just like a out of control party with like a DJ and all that stuff. And then I thought that the other wedding should be, Meredith's character should be getting married. This is like and also the idea of that family being kind of a slightly fancy Southern family. So it should be, there should be a different vibe to that wedding in terms of the centerpieces and the way it looks and the tent and all of that stuff. And so that was, again, to contrast the two and to make it more of a nightmare when they crash into each other, like when it starts raining and Will's wedding has to go into interrupt Reese's wedding.